A is for atomic bomb.
Right. We're not going to try and explain how it works, okay?
It involves some
radioactive stuff.
it's a very clever science.
It's very clever science. As we said when we were talking about Truman, the atomic bomb is an unknown before it's tested and then before it's used. You know, what is the effect this weapon's going to have actually on the Japanese government? No one knows. They don't. At one point, Admiral Lane, who's Roosevelt's chief of staff, isn't he?
He's his chief military
advisor. He bets King George VI it's not going to work. And he doesn't want to use it either. He thinks that if you drop an atomic bomb on Japan, then you've crossed the line and it's as bad as gassing the Japanese. What he'd rather do is blockade Japan with a thing called Operation Starvation. And literally starve the Japanese out. He thinks that's the more ethical way of ending the war with Japan. Right? Because these are the choices on offer.
The other thing I think is really important to say very quickly is that not only do people not know whether it's going to work, they don't know how long it's going to take until they can check whether it works.
Yeah.
You know, so when Truman takes over on the 12th of April, and then subsequently gets told by Henry Stimson,
yeah,
you know, we've got this, we're doing this, we're really close, we think, but we might not be ready till next year.
Yeah.
No idea.
Yeah. And it's not till,
if at all.
It's July the 17th, isn't it? When they find out.
17th, 16th, yes.
16th, well, yeah, when they find out that it works, the Trinity test. But the thing is that the atomic bomb fits into a continuity in the American strategic bombing campaign anyway. Over Japan, they've tried bombing from the stratosphere with their bomber that they built for this exact job, the B-29, and they've discovered that the winds in the stratosphere over Japan are something they just hadn't figured out and hadn't accounted for, and they can't do their accurate bombing. So there's a change at the top. Curtis LeMay comes in and says, well, what we're going to do is we're going to bomb from beneath 1,000 feet within centuries and bomb the centre of Tokyo. And with the
B-29s,
with the
B-29s payload,
yeah, which carry loads and loads of bombs. So they kill in the raids that follow. They kill 100,000 people probably in one night in Tokyo. Destroy a quarter of the city. So there is an American appetite for destruction, if you want to put it that way, and also a very, very firm appetite to end the war. As we said, they think there's 2 years to go. The American newspapers' letter pages are full of people saying, why is my son he's finished in Europe now? Why has he got to go to the East? Why is that guy? He's married, but he hasn't got any kids. Why hasn't he been drafted? And there's a lot in the newspapers about this. There's also the simple question: if you are going to invade the Japanese mainland, will the carnage be like Okinawa? Most likely. And if so, a simple thing: how big a blood drive are you going to have to do, blood donor drive, to land an army big enough to conquer the South Island? And how are you going to persuade your civilian population, without any political cost, that that's what you need to do next? The sort of huge imponderables facing the Americans if they do decide to invade.
And they just don't know. But what they do know is that the closer they've got to Japan, the worse the fighting has been.
And the Japanese government is absolutely committed to this idea, and we're into the sort of territory of delusion. The Japanese government is absolutely committed to the idea that the way it's not going to win the war, but what it's going to do is it's going to make the Americans decide to give up. And the way to do that is to spill as much American blood as possible, and the way to do that is to spill as much Japanese blood as necessary to get the Americans to go, you know what, this isn't worth it. And
I mean, Imperial Japan has developed into a death cult, basically.
Yeah, essentially. It has that.
I've just noticed that guy's shorts on the left.
Yes.
Impossibly high. You just want to grab him and just put him down a bit.
But it's a pressurised cockpit, so he can wear what he likes. He's just starting out. So when the first atomic bomb is dropped, and the Americans, kind of rush on with this because they're thinking if they're going to invade the South Island, they might have to end up using them as tactical nuclear weapons rather than strategic nuclear weapons. The difference being the strategic nuclear weapon is done in the name of this is what we're trying to achieve rather than tactically on the battlefield. And when they dropped the first one, the Japanese simply refused to believe, particularly the army, refused to believe, who are the sort of most powerful lobby in Tokyo, refused to believe it's an atomic weapon. They refused to believe it's an atomic weapon because they've tried to make one themselves and couldn't do it, which is a sound reasoning. As I'm sure, I can't run 100 metres in under 10 seconds, so it can't be done. But they have a nuclear program. There's a scientist called Nishina, and he's working on it for the army. And he knows Niels Bohr, he knows Einstein. He's completely up to speed with all the literature, all this sort of stuff. And he's building he's trying to build an atomic weapon for the army. In April, late April, his laboratory is destroyed by an American air raid. So he writes a memo saying, well, we can't do it, it can't be done. And there's no way the Americans can do this. It's too difficult. It's impossible. He is also, at the same time, the chair of the Imperial Japanese Navy's nuclear weapons program, but he doesn't tell them about the Army's program because he's siloed, he's not allowed to. It's secret. So, and the Navy switched to trying to build an atomic weapon after the Battle of Midway, but they're locked in a sort of 1930s sci-fi vibe where they're looking for death rays and stuff as well. So there's a detachment from reality about trying to create these weapons. As a sidebar to that, after the second one is dropped, the army then come back to him and go, is there any chance you could build us one really quickly? Afraid not. But in the midst of this, the Japanese are so information and intelligence poor, there's this extraordinary story. So within the Big Six, the Japanese war cabinet, there's stalling and disagreement about what to do about the atomic bomb. And on the side of the army, complete denial that it exists. And their sources of intelligence are very, very thin. The only actual thing that tells them the atomic bomb has been dropped is President Truman, who says, we have dropped an atomic bomb, it's this weapon, this is how we made it, and if you don't give up, we'll do it again. And they don't believe it. And they reply, and they say, and the American government then draws up a thing saying, you've got to abide by the Potsdam Declaration that lays out what's going to happen next in Japan. And the Japanese government replies with the word mokusatsu, which means, depending on the katakana, it can mean kill with silence, it can mean no comment, it can mean get stuffed, basically. Right? And there's still historiographical debate about what they really meant and whether the news agency that translates it wrong and would translate it with malign intent and so on. But their answer is insufficient. But in the midst of this, there's a P-51 pilot called Marcus McDilda. And he's shot down over Osaka, and he's picked up by the Kempeitai, the Japanese secret police, and he's being tortured for information. He's shot down the day after, and they say, what is this thing, this weapon that went off yesterday? What is it? Tell us. And this is a sort of case study in how torture doesn't work. They put the sword to his lips and say, what is it? He says, well, what we've done is we've made a lightning bomb, and we've captured the power of 50 lightning bolts, and we put it in a lead container. And
when it hits a very hard surface.
Well, no, and then we with another detonation, we melt the lead off, and the power of the 50 lightning bolts strikes the city. And we've got 100 of these, and we're going to bomb Tokyo, we're going to bomb Kyoto, and we're going to bomb. Those are the two places it's heard of. And the Kempeitai guy, the secret policeman, thinks, fucking hell. I've got to get this guy to Tokyo. And so sends him to Tokyo. They murder the remaining prisoners of war they're holding, who have offered no such intelligence. And this report is what the head of the army brings to the cabinet by way of our intel on what this weapon is, which just tells you that the delusion in the Japanese government is being fed by very, 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 very poor information. And because of mokusatsu, because they refuse to accept the situation they're in, the Americans elect to drop the second atomic weapon. And I think for my money, it's the second one that changes, is the bomb that changes the world, because that's the bomb where they show they're prepared to do it again.
Yeah.
The first one, maybe it's a one-off, maybe we don't want to ever do that again. It's the second one, and it's the logical conclusion of the American strategic bombing acceleration and escalation. It's the second atomic bomb.